Well, good morning, everyone. I guess we're going to start now. Thank you to everyone who has signed on for our seminar this morning. My name is David Duplessis, and I'm the CEO of the St. John Region Chamber of Commerce. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you, and a special thank you to Claire Harris from NB Power, who's been helping us to set up and coordinate for this video presentation. I would also like to welcome some special members that are here with us today. Special welcome to MBA students that are joining us. As some of you may know, we have a partnership with UNB, and particularly the MBA program, where MBA students receive honorary memberships to the Chamber of Commerce. So we're delighted to have that inclusion of new members, particularly from the younger sector. As well, we would like to welcome the Dean of the Ontario Tech Universities joining us as well. So special welcome to those people. This is our regular Distinguished Speaker Series, and we have a special twist to it now. It's called our Digital Edition. Over the past few months, our next few months, our Digital Edition will spotlight a number of different initiatives and sectors that are going to help to move our region and our province forward. So this first one is our Energy Series. As you may know, the Chamber's been very, very active in this sector. Some of our past successes include the East Coast Energy Connections Conference, as well as support for pipelines and various responsible development of natural resources. So we're very involved in the energy sector. So today we welcome 5 panelists from the Atlantic Clean Energy Alliance. This includes a number of chamber members. Again, welcome to our chamber members: Moltex Energy, NB Power, and Opportunities New Brunswick. These companies are part of the Alliance, and the Alliance itself is comprised of these members, plus the Atlantica Centre for Energy and Arc Nuclear. Also, I'd like to take a minute to congratulate Rory O'Sullivan from Moltex Energy on a recent announcement with respect to funding from the U.S. Department of Energy. We do hope that today's presentations, New Brunswick Nuclear Future, Advanced Small Modular Reactors, will generate a valuable discussion as part of our region's diverse energy landscape. And we expect for this presentation to take approximately 40 minutes, with Q&A sessions to follow. And now for some housekeeping. Near the top of your screen, you'll find View Settings, and you may be able to select the View Speaker Only. As well, we would prefer, if those who are not presenting as part of today's session, to turn off their cameras and their microphones in order to minimize any distractions. I would also like to thank Distinguished Speaker Series sponsors, our Economic Development Agency, Economic Development of Greater St. John. Welcome, Ron. We enjoy working with you immensely. We've also got Emera New Brunswick, Stuart McKelvey, RBC Royal Bank, and UNBSJ MBA program as our distinguished speaker sponsors. So now I would like to turn it over to Colleen D'Entremont, who is with the Atlantica Centre for Energy, which is a member of the Atlantic Clean Energy Alliance. So I'll pass it over to you, and welcome, Colleen.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, David. As David mentioned, I am Colleen D'Entremont, President of the Atlantica Centre for Energy and part of the Atlantic Clean Energy Alliance. So we are pleased to provide you today with an update on the progress of New Brunswick's development and deployment of advanced small modular reactors. So we strongly support New Brunswick's development of advanced SMRs to provide stable, non-emitting electricity generation. We think it's a real win-win-win for New Brunswick, for Canada, and quite frankly, for the rest of the world as well. Other clean energy technologies require SMR development. This is a non-emitting baseload generation that complements intermittent renewable generation for the electricity grids of the future. So welcome. In New Brunswick, the provincial government, as well as the provincial utility, are supportive of SMR development. Premier Higgs, Minister Holland, and Minister Wilson have all publicly stated their support for this technology development here in New Brunswick. So we're going to start this session with Paul Thompson, Deputy Chief Nuclear Officer at NB Power. So Paul, if you could explain how New Brunswick and NB Power fits into the pan-Canadian approach with respect to SMRs, we'd really appreciate hearing that.
Thank you very much, Colleen, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you very much. If I could have the next slide, please.
is draft 1.
Thank you. To address climate change, it requires a mixture of generation sources, but clearly nuclear has to be part of that energy mix. And small modular reactors can offer advantages over new build of the current generation of plants. Starting in 2018, Natural Resources Canada convened a across Canada committee to develop a pan-Canadian roadmap. So this is a roadmap which would lead then to the development and deployment of SMRs. Since that time, the industry has been working cooperatively to develop an integrated plan for the development and deployment of SMRs. This endeavor got a huge boost in December of 2019 when the 3 provinces of New Brunswick, Ontario, and Saskatchewan signed an interprovincial MOU on development and deployment of SMRs. On the next slide shows the approach that has been developed for rolling out these small modular reactors. Small modular reactors can come in a wide range of applications and power. And so to deal with that, what the industry has identified are 3 parallel equal priority streams for development. And I'll go briefly discuss each stream, and then we're going to concentrate on stream number 2. So stream number 1 are technologies that are designed to be attached to the grid, so they're grid size, so they're at the larger end of the SMR spectrum, up to 300 megawatts, and are relatively readily deployable. And the vision is to deploy this type of technology at the Darlington nuclear site in Ontario around 2028. This then paves the way to de-risking potential projects in Saskatchewan, which would avoid the need for Sask Power to add additional gas plants. And thus, Stream 1 is a potential for quick decarbonization. Stream 2 is also on the on-grid class of reactors, but it is the advanced Generation 4 small modular reactors. And these are being developed here in New Brunswick. These technologies bring additional benefits above and beyond those for Stream 1. However, they're going to be deployed a little later in the early to mid 2030s. Stream 3 is the very small modular reactors at the other end of the scale. And these are used for remote resource extraction, such as mining or heating and electricity for remote communities in the far north. As I mentioned before, this whole presentation now is going to focus now on Stream 2, but we thought it was important to understand how this all fits into the overall context of a pan-Canadian approach. The next slide gives a little bit of history. Starting in 2017, NB Power, as part of its regular energy planning activities, was looking at electricity demand in the future, asset management, and also environmental aspects. In particular, the reduction needed for greenhouse gas. And as part of that energy planning scenarios, we looked at the potential for adding new nuclear generation above and beyond that which we currently have at the Point Lepreau generating station. During this review, we recognized the tremendous advantages that advanced Generation 4 small modular reactors can offer. And through discussions with the provincial government decided to take the bold step and establish a research and development cluster for advanced small modular reactors and invested $10 million in the establishment of the cluster. Based on a technology review of the different designs that are out there, 2 very excellent companies, Arc Nuclear Canada and Moltex Energy Canada, were selected and joined the R&D cluster, each investing $5 million. The next slide shows the types of activities that have been happening over the last 2 years. So next slide, please. So both ARC and Moltex have been very busy in terms of advancing their planning for the projects, working on their reactor designs, validation of research involving research and development, and going through the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission vendor design review process, the first phase. They've also done supply chain studies, had significant discussions with companies here in New Brunswick, and have been very active in the engagement activities. Likewise, NB Power has also been advancing its general planning and support of the technology for the vendors, as well as in engagement activities. And these activities are outlined in the next slide. This builds on the very good effort and relationships that NB Power has developed in the communities, both the First Nations, surrounding communities, and across the province. And this is very important for us to engage early in the process. So we do not have a declared project, but we envision a project that could happen with tremendous opportunities for here in the province. And thus it is important to get out and talk with people and also listen and engage and learn from the feedback that comes. And that's part of what we're doing today. On the next slide, it really shows the vision of what we're trying to do, and that is to establish a supply chain largely centered here in New Brunswick and then in the rest of Canada, and to demonstrate these technologies at the Point Lepreau generating station. And this allows for then subsequent rollout of the fleet, both across Canada and into the international markets. What makes this possible are the many advantages that are inherent in the Generation 4 advanced small modular reactor designs. And those are outlined on the next slide. So what's so special about Gen 4 advanced SMRs? And why are we so interested in New Brunswick? Well, like all nuclear energy, it provides a clean form of energy, which is a necessary part of the climate solution. But the remaining bullets are unique to advanced Generation 4 designs. They have inherent safety characteristics and a high degree of passive safety. And this is more easily be explained by the physics and chemistry provides the safety so that you don't need as many complex and layered engineered systems to provide that level of safety. So for example, if the reactor gets too hot, it shuts itself down automatically. This improvement in safety also allows for the design to be simplified, which means they can be built at a much lower cost and are also affordable. These advanced designs allow for the potential to recycle their own used fuel and thus produce significantly less volumes of high-level radioactive waste. The designs are such that they can have superior load following capabilities and thus allow for a greater use of renewable forms of energy. They also produce superheated steam and so have cogeneration capability, which can be used in conjunction with heavy industry or for the generation of hydrogen, which can also be a fuel to help reduce the greenhouse gas. And because the designs are sufficiently simple, it means that they're able to build and construct more of those types of components, manufacture them here within a province of like New Brunswick. And of course, with our great access to the sea, we have great ports by which we can ship these parts out around the world. So in conclusion, on the next slide, we look at really what the opportunity for New Brunswick is. and that is the ability to grow a brand new sector, not just a one-time construction project. It will lead to significant positive impacts on all businesses here in New Brunswick. Engagement and partnership are going to be key in this to ensure that we have healthy conversations and receive the feedback. I encourage everyone to find out more, to reach out to us if you have any questions, and to join the conversation about the future. And please show your support if you agree that this is a great thing to do. At this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mr. Norman Sawyer, who is the Chief Executive Officer and President of ARC Nuclear Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that introduction, and I'm really happy to be here to speaking to everybody today. The screen's going to be turned over to me, I believe.
And while Norm is queuing up his presentation, I'm just going to remind everyone to mute their microphones so that we can hear Norm clearly. Thanks so much.
So, hopefully everybody can see that. So thank you very much. A really pleasure to be here today. As everybody, most people in St. John recognize, our office is in St. John, New Brunswick. And we are a company, a technology company called ARC Nuclear Canada. ARC Nuclear Canada has a number of strong partners with them, world leaders. Obviously, GE Hitachi would be a name that a lot of people probably would know. AECOM, Canada Nuclear Operations, which is a subsidiary of AECOM, and also Worley, which used to be called Worley Parsons, but is now called Worley Canadian Services. But we also have local companies working with us today. We do have a timeline that we're working to. We were working with our partner at MB Power. As you can see, our timeline is very close to what Paul was talking about, the timeline in Ontario. And one of the main reasons for that is that our technology is a proven technology. A lot of the prototype work has already been done. So we're continuing to march along our timeline progression that we have here, that I have in front of you here today. One of the major events that happened to us late in 2019 was the fact that, in fact, we did pass the CNSC Phase 1 regulatory review, and now we're planning to go into Phase 2. With Phase 2 comes expansion for us. Essentially, our company will grow by 32 individuals. We've been doing a lot of organizational development as we move forward. We have hiring targets, as you can see, and we're really working, trying to change a bit of the paradigm in the nuclear industry with a lot of diversity, with Indigenous peoples working with us, obviously bilingualism. In fact, trying to reflect the province. The company is trying to reflect the province as the provincial culture that stands today. So these will be exciting times for us as we continue to grow here by, as I mentioned, about 32 people. As you can see here, the growth for the actual project itself will move, we'll have a lot on our plate. Somewhere around 75 people will be working on Phase 2. You can see that our Canada at the bottom, the blue box, will grow by more than 30. Which means our office will have to expand. Our office right now are in the Bell Line Towers next to Brunswick Square. But also you see additional offices coming in for companies like worldwide companies like AECOM will be moving in, and our negotiations are pretty well complete with them. Worley will be hiring additional people to support us, and also GE we're in negotiations with them to talk about how they would essentially move one of their offices into the province of New Brunswick, and most likely St. John. Just a quick talk about inherent safety and waste reduction from our technology. Inherent safety for us is really it naturally controlled as power output without human intervention. And that, as Paul mentioned, that's really about not having engineered systems doing this. It's just nature itself automatically, responding to temperature changes and changes the reactor power into a safer level. And what's occurring in the energy systems is really changing. The future energy system will be much different than most likely today. With for example, technology like ours, the ARC 100, providing not only electrical energy, also heat storage capability for peaking, and providing those off-the-shelf technology that basically has just large tanks that can store heat. But also the technology that we produce combines very well with hydrogen, chemical production, industry, and clean water desalination. The size of the reactor is perfect for that, and that's what makes it so appealing from a economic growth, particularly where the factory built process. As I mentioned, that our technology is been proven. It's a little reactor that ran for over 30 years, so we have all the data, all the information from the first shovel in the ground to the decommissioning. So we know exactly what we need to do, how we need to do it, and how much it will cost. A number of studies have supported or validated our assumptions from the World Nuclear Association, MIT, are all saying that our type of technology is ready for commercial deployment, which makes it such a lower risk opportunity for the province of New Brunswick. But not only that, we have to deal with waste. The new technologies today have to address some of the concerns the public has. And here is just an example. One of the things is reducing waste. So you can see equivalent megawatts or power production. You can see here that while a typical CANDU might produce over 20,000 fuel bundles, we would produce equivalent of about 184. And where a typical CANDU reactor today, like Point Lepreau, fuels 3, 4, 5 times a week, our reactor is fueled once every 20 years. And then we reconstitute the fuel, which means we recharge it, and we run again another 20 years, recharge a second time, and we run a third time for 20 years. So over 60 years, there would only be 3 fueling cycles. It also provides options for New Brunswick, which is important. New Brunswick has made investments into technology like ours, and so you want to reduce the risk as much as possible. So you can see here a typical schematic of what might occur. Obviously, if you go across the top from the uranium mine into the CANDU or a Gen 3 Plus, which is kind of the old technology made better, it still produces the same amount of waste, which the current approach ends up being 100 thousands of years storage. However, if you use a technology like ours, you go from the mining into the reactor. You remember what I said, you only fuel every 20 years. So the first fuel run is 20 years. And then you have options. Obviously, option 1 is to store it the way that we do it today, but with significant decrease in volume and radiotoxicity. But there's also option 2, where you recycle it directly back into the reactor. And there's also option 4, where you can delay it up to 100 years and recycle it back into the reactor. Option 3, and just to be clear, option 3 means that we would use the spent fuel at Point Lepreau. So we would be recycling that fuel through our reactor. So this reduces risk for investment, and this is what the investors see as reduction of risk. This is what the province sees as reduction of risk. Which makes it great for the province of New Brunswick and its investors, which is the taxpayers. So our approach is really prudent, balanced, and realistic. What it's about defining what the supply chain looks like, and as you can see here, somewhere around 74% of the components today, without doing any additional investment, can come from Canada. But what's interesting, of that 74, 51% of it can be done in New Brunswick. Our estimates point somewhere around 110,000 jobs across Canada. And what that means, if you compare it to the industry today, is somewhere around 76,000 for CANDU. We have a number of organizations, most likely a lot of them in the Chamber of Commerce here in St. John, that are working with us. And as you can see, the list continues to grow as we continue to reach out and get support for various things that are getting done as we continue to march forward. One of the latest announcements we made was Oro, which you see at the top. Oro is a technology company, IT technology company for security. That has provided us some high-end type support for IT security systems. So we're really focused on regional development because I think that's important. One of our main investors is a province of New Brunswick, and we take that to heart. The supply chain, as you can see right there, it continues to work. So this next phase is we get involved with more companies and start doing audits and reviews of key suppliers who can supply the pieces and parts that we'll need. This becomes a big component of the next phase of work we do, including the determination of the facility, site selection and design. We've been looking across the province, and obviously we need a port. Because these things can be, as you need to understand, they can either be shipped by rail, obviously by ship, and also by truck. So we are finding ways to ship our product worldwide, and ports are very important to us. So we're doing that research now, and in this next phase to determine what possibly would be the best site. Obviously, St. John is probably the most popular because it's the biggest one, but there are a couple other sites that we're actually having a look at too. Power rates, electrical charges, how much you pay for your electricity is extremely important to this province. Just wanted to make a short comparison here. You'll see at the bottom where the ARC 100 stands around 7 cents, where Point Lepreau is around 8.2 cents, and then you keep going up to the point where Nova Scotia Renewable Energy has a policy or a law, I'm not sure which one it is, that talks about 53 cents a kilowatt. They are making investments, obviously, in the renewable energies into ways to produce power. New Brunswick is also, but you can see the investment that New Brunswick is making is in the low cost end of the equation. So what that gives us is I hope everybody understands, if there's one point I want to get across here today, is the fact that it's not about building a power station. It's not like Point Lepreau, where construction in its heyday had all kinds of people working, and then after that, everybody left. And then we had the refurb, everybody was working, and then everybody left. And one of the things that was left behind was a big bill. I guess this is the best way I could explain it. So we have to understand this is not what we're looking at here. We're looking at building a manufacturing chain here in New Brunswick. We're looking at construction jobs. We're looking at OME, which means the people that run the plant, but we're also looking at that supply chain and manufacturing to provide indirect and direct jobs for the economy, to provide jobs for people. What that means is, yes, we're going to get low-cost energy, which is clean energy for for hospitals and manufacturers and electrification of the transport system. But you're also going to get the economic impact of the tax dollars from households, from people working, from investments from private, from having companies like AECOM and GE move into the area. This can have a significant impact and assist New Brunswick with some of its goals of addressing some of its economic woes, I guess I would say. With that, I'll turn it over to Moltex and Quinn.
Thank you very much, Norm. So I guess Randy will help me with the slides. Thank you all very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present. My name is Quinn. I'm from Moltex Energy Canada. Can we go to next slide, please? Okay, so Moltex Energy is a advanced nuclear technology company, and we offer our nuclear solution, clean energy solution to the society with the following benefits. And our technology comes with a very low cost, and also we're not burning fresh uranium from the mine, and we're actually burning the existing waste that was generated by other type of reactors in the past. So by doing that, we're not generating additional nuclear waste, and rather we're reducing the existing volume of waste. And then because the energy storage capability that is associated with our technology, and we can enable more renewables like wind power, solar power into our system. So all these great features was possible because the unique characteristics of this molten salt. So you can go to, if you're interested, you can go to our website. There's a lot of good stories about this molten salt technology. And you can also find a lot of recently published papers and books introducing molten salt. So can we go to the next one, please? Regarding how we work with renewable energy. So our reactor has the intrinsic feature of energy storage. So we store the heat in the molten salt. So our technology works like a big battery that when you have an excess amount of renewable energy, we can absorb that. If the customer needs more energy, we have the picking capability that allows us to satisfy the customer's need. So by having our technology, molten salt, Moltex technology on the grid, we can allow more renewable energies to be connected. So that's one of our big advantage to work.
Hello, Quinn, we're having problem hearing.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can now, Quinn. That's great. Please continue.
Yeah, I think I lost the connection the past several seconds. Okay, so now we're in the slides talking about the fuel cycle. And in the past, the new reactors burns the fresh uranium and buries it. So that we call fuel cycle. And what we introduce is a closed nuclear fuel cycle, and we use Moltex technology to burn the existing nuclear waste. So by doing so, we're not generating extra nuclear waste, but rather we're reducing the existing nuclear waste. And meanwhile, we're generating electricity. Can we go to the next one? So when we think about our technology, and we put the cost of electricity as a very important factor, because we know people have to be able to afford the electricity we generate. And the cheaper we can go, the more people can enjoy the clean energy that will make a significant and meaningful impact, positive impact on the environment. So if you look at the nuclear over the years, the nuclear start cheap in the very beginning, and the cost goes higher and higher over the years because people have keeping adding extra safety features. For Moltex, we start from the very fundamental of this technology, and we change the fuel to molten salt, which give us extra defense against nuclear accidents, against nuclear release. So by doing so, we're able to reduce the cost while maintain a very high safety standards. So our cost will be significantly lower than our competitors on using the water-cooled technology. And by having those costs, we expect that we'll be able to provide clean energy to a lot of people, to a lot of countries around the world. Next one, please. So this is a study done by the US EPRI to predict how much market nuclear can occupy in the future. So you can see the market share of nuclear is closely related to the cost. If you can down to $2,000 per kilowatt, and nuclear it's going to be like half of the electricity market, and that's our target. And next one, please. So our current activities here, and we partnered with New Brunswick Power, as I mentioned earlier. And so at this time, we're finalizing our CNSC VDR review. And we have established a partnership with University of New Brunswick, which is a very important strategic partner for us. And we have been working with Professor Willie Cook's team in New Brunswick, in UNB, try to develop technology that can maximize our capability to reduce the waste. And we're not only doing that, we're also looking to expand our collaboration with UNB, and we're looking into information security, advanced manufacturing. And we hope that we can work with UNB to establish a R&D center in New Brunswick, so that this technology can have a root in New Brunswick and be developed in New Brunswick. And we have an office in St. John. We have currently more than 15 technical staff in St. John, and we're looking very actively to hire more people into our office. And we're also getting funding from the US, from UK, and from Canada, and we're spending our money here in New Brunswick. And next one, please. So in the past year, we have done a supply chain study to understand the capability in New Brunswick. And so our goal is always to base in New Brunswick. So it's kind of a New Brunswick-centric strategy, because we're very thankful that New Brunswick has this vision and determination to lead the advanced nuclear technology development in Canada. So every time we look at supply chain, including components making and engineering service, we look at New Brunswick first, and then we look at Canada and the rest of the world. And in the future, when we develop this technology, we'll have the same strategy in terms of a manufacturing supply chain. Can we go to the next one? So the study last year showed that actually 46% of our components can be made in New Brunswick. And that's a big part of the supply chain. And considering the size of province, if we can establish a manufacturing base here just for the 46%, it's going to be a huge market and huge opportunity. And we're doing everything we can to make that a reality. And this is actually talking about the components making, but we have already started working in Brunswick. So in terms of engineering service, we have already been hiring New Brunswick companies and independent consultants to help us with the design. I can see some very familiar names from the attendees of this webinar. And next one, please. So in conclusion, so Moltex Energy is providing an advanced reactor technology which costs less, reduces waste, and has a very good capability to accommodate more renewables into the grid. And we currently have a lot of activities in New Brunswick and in UK to demonstrate strong support and momentum. And we believe that new nuclear in New Brunswick can play a major role in clean economic recovery post-COVID-19, which I think a nuclear gives us a great opportunity to have this economy recovery. And we intend to put the NB supply chain first. That is always our commitment. Can we go to the next one? So if you have any questions regarding our technology, don't hesitate to contact me. And if you have, if you want to know more about the supply chain opportunity, please contact our supply chain manager, Eva. And thank you very much.
And thank you, Quinn, and also thanks to Norm as well, who gave perspectives from the two proponents that are based here in New Brunswick. Opportunity New Brunswick is also working really hard on this as one of their key priorities. We have Steve Milbury with us, who's the Senior Director. So Steve, maybe I can turn it over to you.
Hi, Steve, we can't hear you.
Not sure if Steve's having some audio issues, but my name is Jesse Graham. I work at Opportunities New Brunswick with Steve. I'd be happy to fill in the meantime. Basically, essentially what Colleen said, small modular reactor technology, especially as it relates to nuclear and the energy mix in general, is a big focus for us and for the province in general. For those who might not be familiar with Opportunities New Brunswick, we're New Brunswick's lead economic development agency, and we've identified energy and these nuclear assets specifically as a focus for us. So that's why you might be hearing our name a little more recently than later. If I could go to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So when it comes to a lot of things in New Brunswick, we think of 4 pillars essentially that allow us to be successful. And it's no different when it comes to the energy mix as well as these nuclear assets we're discussing today. One of those pillars, namely, is our uniquely skilled workforce here in the province. We've already had nuclear assets here from Point Lepreau in New Brunswick. We have people that are working in that space currently, and we have a supply chain that's, as was mentioned in the previous presenters' parts, a supply chain that's also ready to service a pretty significant portion of that distribution. So we do have the skill force here and the workforce that can serve those needs and allow those companies to grow and create and realize that economic opportunity. Some other great examples of that are the research chair in nuclear engineering at the University of New Brunswick, the University of New Brunswick Center for Nuclear Energy Research, and then, as I mentioned earlier, just the existing workforce that we have on both sides with the proponents as well as with the supply chain as well. The next pillar we tend to look at after that is our high quality infrastructure that we have in the province. And when we think of this, we think of all the players in the space. And for example, I can always go back to Point Lepreau, but to go even beyond that, when we think of the groups like the Smart Grid Innovation Network that we have based here in Fredericton that reach across the province, and then back again once to our supply chain, which has been serving the energy and nuclear industries today and in the past for many, many years. We have cost competitive infrastructure and a fully serviced industrial infrastructure that's ready to be developed even further. And this is a great opportunity to do so. Our third pillar would be our committed and agile government to this priority. So some examples of that beyond Opportunities in Brunswick and people within GMB in general that have recognized that this is important, with our Premier recognizing that this is an important opportunity for us and partnering with Ontario and Saskatchewan. We also have the New Brunswick Energy Solutions Corporation, who's partnered with ARC and Moltex respectively, really to establish New Brunswick as a leader in this type of nuclear reactor technology. The memorandum of understanding between New Brunswick, Ontario, and Saskatchewan, as I mentioned, which is an awesome indicator and positive sign that we're looking at this seriously. And then I think of our energy innovation and our cybersecurity sectors here, which are 2 really key priorities for the New Brunswick government, for Opportunities New Brunswick as a result of that, for MB Power, et cetera, and that spans into municipalities and all across the Canadian government. Those 2 sectors really complement one another, and the fact that we've been able to take advantage of the cybersecurity industry here in New Brunswick, it really fits into the energy sector and how we can really protect and secure that infrastructure going forward. And then our final pillar after that would be our innovative utilities and private sector. And if some of the presentations prior haven't given you an indication to why that exists and is thriving we have the Amera and MB Power Research Center for Smart Grid Technology at UMB, and then we also have Energia Ventures, which is a program designed to support startups either within the energy sectors or within the cybersecurity sectors respectively. And they're often working to create all kinds of new innovative ideas, solutions, whether it's on the grid, if it's energy and resource development, or if it's protecting the critical infrastructure that I mentioned before. All kind of pieces of that pie are happening here in the province, and we're really addressing it from every level. So with those 4 pillars, it really sets New Brunswick up to take advantage of this unprecedented economic opportunity. If I could go to the next slide, please. Another thing that we often think about when, as we're having these discussions, and sometimes they're not necessarily the easiest discussions to have because people have, whether it's maybe a lack of awareness in certain regards or just maybe a lack of understanding in the technology itself. It's important that we take advantage of this now because the opportunity, it really is now, and it's not going to be here if we don't seize it while we can. With our history in nuclear energy and the expertise within, our experience in manufacturing, our centers of clean technology, and our focus on entrepreneurship in that space also, New Brunswick really has all of the components to be a leader on this vital new technology. We have the strong post-secondary education engineering programs in place. UMB is making strides to bring nuclear back into their academic mix, so students can then graduate and focus on that, and then be able to work within the province, within their sector, and not have to leave. It's a great way that we can retain the awesome talent that our universities pump out here. And to complement that as well, our secondary, post-secondary academic institutions have always been highly experienced in energy innovation and work very closely with utilities like MB Power and groups like that. So this is really just another amazing opportunity that we can take advantage as we go forward. Really, this can set the stage for us to be a clean energy province and to give clean energy not only to us, but also to be able to export it to the world. We know that non-renewable resources are not going to be sustainable for very long, and when it comes to thinking of a way to generate energy that leaves such less of a carbon footprint, nuclear is really needs to be a part of that discussion and a part of that equation. It would provide a significant amount of baseload, and then when you add alternative renewables into the mix, that really helps with the alternate peak demand and things like that. So it's really an opportunity that we need to look at now and take seriously. It's opportunities that really is just very unique to New Brunswick, and as Norm and Rory mentioned before me, just beyond their companies themselves with and MB Power, the effect this is going to have the supply chain is really it's really amazing. So we're focused on it and we're very supportive of it, and I hope others can think in the same way, and if not, maybe we can have a discussion and hopefully shed some light on maybe questions that you might have. But that's all that I have for right now. Thank you very much for listening. And if you do have questions about us or about maybe what I've said today, please feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to chat further. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jesse. Really appreciate your comments. Looks like we're really leveraging the advantages that we have here in New Brunswick and basically have created a team New Brunswick. Of key importance is the development of Canadian leadership in this as well. And in order for that to happen, local supporters like all of you out there today must have their voices heard in Ottawa. And there is a clear role for the Government of Canada to support this technology development here in New Brunswick. So to wrap up today's session, I'm going to turn it over to Brett Plummer, who is the Chief Nuclear Officer at MB Power. So Brett, over to you.
Thanks, Colleen. I'd like to thank all the participants for signing on and learning about the opportunity of advanced small modular reactors in New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada. I want to thank the presenters and Colleen for an excellent job on the presentations. The development of advanced SMRs, small modular reactors, is critical to reaching net zero by 2050 for New Brunswick, Atlantic Canada, and Canada. We will not meet net zero 2050 without nuclear power. The advanced small modular reactors work with renewables and other non-emitting energy sources to provide basically a carbon-free electricity generation. The development of advanced small modular reactors is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for economic development in Atlantic Canada and elsewhere in Canada, based on the supply chain you heard about, fleet support, and potential exports. The advanced small modular reactors are clean, carbon-free. They provide the opportunity to significantly close the nuclear fuel cycle, and they have inherent safety features which have been described. Both the advanced small modular reactor vendors in New Brunswick are complementary. They're different reactors, they have different markets, and we need both in the long term. There is a limited window of opportunity, as mentioned before, to lead in the development in the industry around advanced SMRs. Other countries are starting to look at designs, regulatory system, and applications. As the climate heats up, so does the activity around advanced small modular reactors. So we do need to act, or we will lose this opportunity. We have worked hard with other utilities in Canada, Natural Resource Canada, Canadian Nuclear Association, to develop a pan-Canadian approach, which you heard about. It involves the 3 streams, which Paul was talking about. And basically a unified ask to the federal government to ensure all of Canada benefits from this approach. Federal support is needed now in the way of funding, financial guarantees, and/or financial backstops. We need to show the private sector investors that we're serious and committed. We need to de-risk these projects by removing some of the uncertainty. So now is the time to invest in New Brunswick, Atlantic Canada, and all of Canada. I really appreciate everybody listening to this information, and I would highly encourage you to reach out, educate yourself, learn about these new advanced small modular reactors and the opportunity they provide. And if there's any questions at all, you can reach out to the Advanced Small Modular Reactor team at New Brunswick Power, and Claire Harris will take the lead in assembling any questions or getting the answers to the questions. Back to you, Colleen.
Thanks very much. And thanks to all of the presenters today, and special thank you to everyone who's participating by joining us today. So in the effort of staying on time, I'm going to turn it back over to David to close up from the standpoint of the chamber. Thank you again, everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Colleen, and thank you as well to all of our presenters. There's some tremendous opportunities for our province and our region here. As we know, New Brunswick is home to such a diverse energy distribution as well as generation sources. So we really are poised to look at clean energy options moving into the futures. Once again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to the Atlantic Clean Energy Alliance. Thank you, Colleen D'Entremont from the Atlantica Center for Energy, Paul Thompson from NB Power, Norm Sawyer, Quinn Chen, and as well as Brett Plummer too. So thank you everyone for joining us here today. We're delighted that we were able to launch our energy series with the small modular nuclear reactors information. So thank you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. We're delighted to be able to help you to understand this industry and some of the opportunities for our supply chain. Thank you everyone. Stay safe and well, and have a great day.